Hi, I want to welcome you to another episode of Recovery Today, sponsored by the Recovery Resource Center here in Salisbury, Maryland. My name is Perry Gadurgis. I'm the host of the show, and we are a show that explores different aspects of recovery, pathways of recovery, how it's experienced from all different points of views. Our guest today is someone who is the founder of the show, actually, and was last on the show a year ago talking about an event that's actually coming up now. And I want to welcome John Winslow to the show. Hi, John.
Hey, Perry. Good morning. It's great to be here back with PAC 14 and the Recovery Today show.
Isn't it interesting? Gosh, you started this show a little over 3 years ago, and who would have thought that the pandemic and the way you were now doing the show at this time.
That's right. Things have changed radically, and in terms of what's happening with the recovery movement and the pandemic, and all around the world. The world has changed, and so we were already on board with this show, so we were ready for it. Right.
And it's also amazing, and for our viewers to know, I've noticed, particularly podcasts, there's an explosion of that in any kind of topic you can think of. And especially there's a huge track amongst recovery and treatment and families. And if anyone is watching this and wants to see more of this kind of content, this kind of information, just Google recovery podcast or shows, and you will get a huge amount of hits on that. So, John, viewers might maybe wonder if they've seen you in the show from a couple of years ago and the last interview last year. We talked about an event that you were putting together that really, I guess the genesis of it in some ways was right here in Maryland and in the Salisbury area. And with that in mind, where are you at today with this project after the long career that you've had in recovery?
Well, we're closing in on the launch of International Recovery Day. As you know, September is National Recovery Month, and that's been going on for over a decade now. And so International Recovery Day occurs at the last day of the month. So it's a culmination of a lot of events and activities that are occurring around the country and actually around the world. And so as we close in on it, you had just mentioned about the with the pandemic and the online meetings and so forth. This afternoon I have a conference call with the founders of In the Rooms, which is the largest online recovery support network in the world. They have over 500,000 participants in that, and so we're going to talk about how In the Rooms can help us get the word out to their viewers about International Recovery Day. So there's a lot of exciting things that are happening right now as we build towards this event.
So I have to ask you, you retired a couple of years ago from the Dorchester County Health Department. You founded the Dry Dock Recovery and Wellness Center. You've worked with the Maryland Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependencies. And now I think it's been renamed a little bit, National Council on Addiction or Council or something.
You had it right. It was National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, the Maryland chapter.
And so you've done that kind of work. So why would a guy in your golden years be doing something like this, which is huge, international?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, as I envision myself just transitioning out from the addictions treatment recovery work that I've done and my recovery advocacy work, and sort of envision myself just walking along the beach, hunting for shark's teeth and seashells. My higher power had other plans for me, and it really sparked from a number of years ago now. The first time that I watched Greg Williams' movie called The Anonymous People, and I was ignited when I saw the movement, the recovery movement that was really shifting from out of the church basements into the sunlight of the public with new language that allowed us to break out of the anonymity and disclose who and what we were, that we were people of recovery, and with new language that allowed us to respect traditions of 12-step groups. And when I saw this happening and I felt the movement shift, I was just electrified and ignited and moved to see how I could move my passions to help move this recovery movement forward. Least did I expect that while I was reading a book by William White called Recovery Rising, he's the guru of addiction recovery history, and reading about the first lady of Alcoholics Anonymous, Marty Mann, and her biography, I had a vision of how we could use the internet and today's technology to connect the dots of recovering individuals and families and communities, not just across Maryland, not just across the United States, but all across the globe, to hold out a beacon of hope for folks that are not only in recovery themselves, but family members and people with loved ones of people with addictions, to say that, hey, we do recover, and there are millions of us all around the world that are carrying the banner of recovery.
So what more is involved with this International Day of Recovery? Like, for the viewer that's watching this now, what is it per se, this September 30th of this coming in a month from now?
Well, there are two elements involved. The first is our online free event. We're going to post underneath a banner that shows internationalrecoveryday.org. And so this is a call to action of our viewers, not just people that are in recovery themselves, but anybody that supports the recovery movement, to go online and register to be a part of this worldwide historic online event on September 30th. So more information is to be found when you go to our website. So that's the first aspect of this event. The second aspect of this event, which moves away from online to the impersonal, is our Recovery Lights Around the World initiative. And so you and I are both wearing purple, which is the symbol of the recovery movement. So what we're doing is we are lighting up the world in purple on September 30th. So it's a call to get people to not only go out and buy a purple light bulb to put on hang in your front porch on September 30th, but also to call your city halls and your bridges that have the LED lights, and the Ferris wheels at the parks that can turn purple, and all the different structures, the city halls, because we're doing this all across the country and all across the world. We have the Ben Franklin Bridge lighting up purple. We have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that's going to light up in purple. We have Aloha Towers down in Hawaii that's lighting up. We have Niagara Falls that's lighting up in purple. So structures all over, like I say, all over the country, all around the world are lighting up in purple. So the two things that folks can do: register for our event and share that on your social media with your friends that are recovery supporters, and urge them to register as well. And along with that, light up your city, light up your town, light up the little rural street that you're on with those purple lights, and let's turn the whole globe purple on September 30th.
So that's a real, symbolic connection. It's even when I think of the word community, the later part of that word, unity, and how the international aspects of this, because on your website, I believe there is a link that if somebody does want to get their city hall or their fire department or any their faith, their church, that they can go there and kind of know how to navigate that and record that it's been agreed upon, that it's going to line up. Here in Salisbury, I believe, and where you're at right now in Virginia Beach, I think those city halls have already agreed to do that more locally.
That's correct. And that unity piece, I mean, it goes back to the earliest days of my recovery, where I had a counselor just before I got sober. A counselor used to say, and he was an AA member, and George used to say in our group therapy sessions that I was compelled to go to in order to hold on to my job. George used to say, we can do together what none of us can do alone. And I thought that was a bunch of crap. If I wanted to stop drinking and doing other drugs, I would just stop. And I ended up proving me wrong and George right. And so this movement is all about the we. And so the International Recovery Day is about showing the world that we collectively, as a unified group, from not just alcohol or other drugs, but all addictions, and not just Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or Celebrate Recovery, but all recovery pathways can take part of this event. So we really are huge, and it is all about the we.
Yes, and as you mentioned, the 70s when you engaged in recovery, and myself as well, here in Maryland, and our overlapping sort of professional lives and personal lives, how we were still dealing with a lot of stigma and just sort of the negative connotations about the struggles of addiction and the families and the hijacking of people's brains and that kind of work, and how there was this emergingness, and as you mentioned, the anonymous people shows that historical track as it evolved and more people got engaged in recovery and the numbers continue to grow. One thing I want to mention to that is, again, the unity, the connection, the we, is how one of the main common denominators in what I've read in the research is that in people recovering, some will even what they call age out without any sort of physical organization like a 12-step program or therapy, and that the common denominator, though, for people to abstain or to stop their active addiction has been that they've had at least one person minimally involved in their journey, their shift, their way of now living in recovery versus the active addiction. And that's the family members as well. And so this is a real opportunity to celebrate this amazing, some people would call this survived hell and found heaven, from a perspective of just the tear down of people's lives, families, communities of active addiction, to the amazing transformation that takes time. It's a process. And so even this recovery movement has been a process. This is your first time doing this, to link the world. I mean, this is an historical event that is about to happen, right?
You're right. It is a global community celebration of recovery. We're shifting the focus. Everybody knows about the ravages of addiction. What we want to do is to shift the focus away from that negative to the positive, that there is something constructive that is to be found here. We talk about the concept of through recovery that we can get weller than well. And so those of us that have found a way out of hell and have become part of the solution rather than part of the problem, we have skills and experience that we can offer the rest of the world about how to live in a more loving, harmonious fashion. And we need that not just here in this divided country, but we need this all over the globe right now as people are suffering from the pandemic and from so many other things.
Yes, and again, to remind the viewers, this show is sponsored by the Recovery Resource Center here in Salisbury, Maryland, and they do that. And even in this pandemic time, in the last couple months, about halfway into this so far, they've started to reopen with very strong safety measures to be able to provide that recovery community support. And they also continue to have Zoom meetings too in the different recovery programs that are housed out of the Recovery Resource Center. And so they do that. And so I'm wondering to the viewers that are watching this, what else, is there something they can do in a small way? You did mention about asking them to light up purple and that. Is there anything more, like get the word out, or how would that look like for a viewer to do something and pass it on?
I don't know beyond what we've already talked about. I mean, those are two specific concrete things that people can do. And, dialogue, just talking with people about what's going on in their personal lives and how they're, we in addictions, we learn to adapt to our environment, oftentimes in very maladaptive, unhealthy ways. But in recovery, we can take those skills that we acquired in our addiction and shift them around and use them constructively, as we have done with the pandemic and all the Zoom meetings and other, watching the recovery tapes and so forth that we've been, and having shows like this available to folks. So we are very creative in our ability to find adaptive ways to cope with very challenging situations. I have no doubt that we can continue to move those efforts forward in a positive, constructive way.
I'm so glad you shared that, because it really is more than surviving. It's really thriving.
Yeah.
That just because you made a mistake or experienced mistakes as a family member or person suffering from this substance use disorder doesn't make you a mistake, and that you can truly transform and sort of restart your life over again in that sense. And just what an amazing ongoing journey this has been, an adventure that we've been able to witness. And so last question to that spirit as we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share about in that sort of vein of celebration that you would want to just let viewers know, or speak to a story that amplifies, again, why you do what you do?
I would love to. I appreciate that opportunity, and I'm just mindful of, based on what you just said, of how, as a result of my addiction and other life experiences, by the time that I entered into my last treatment experience at 26, I just turned 26 years old, I was filled with not only shame, but self-loathing, self-disgust. I couldn't stand myself. And I was told that people would be there for me to love me until I learned to love myself. And that miracle occurred. And over time, I did learn to begin to like what I was doing, and that like grew to a love. And yet it doesn't stop there, Perry, as you know, that we can go beyond that, just that personal transcendence to loving ourselves, to then turning it around and giving back to the world. And so each of us in our own unique ways can find a pathway to give back that which was freely given to us back to others, and borrowing an old adage, spread the love. And that's what we're doing.
Wow. Yes, you are. I'd give you a elbow safe distance kind of thing. And wow. Yeah, healing happens, recovery happens. And that's what this show's about, that you created here at PAC 14 and with the Recovery Resource Center. So again, I want to thank you for sharing what you're doing, and likely in a future show after September 30th, we'll give some kind of update or report on how that turned out and just what did that look like. So I invite you to come back to the show to do that.
I'd love to take you up on that, Perry. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll do that. So want to, again, encourage people that are watching this that know that this is also on the PAC-14 YouTube channel. So you can share it with other people if they weren't able to see it when it was broadcast. And that know that the Recovery Resource Center is still operating. It's still available for folks and their family members to get that kind of support that they need, whatever level that is, from treatment to somebody's recent overdose or anything that has impacted their lives in the ways that it does. So it's a very, very valuable resource to our community. And so, again, I want to thank you for watching this show, and we'll see you next time.